Welcome back for our final day of our marketing journey with Joel. That's what we need to have called it, our marketing journey with Joel, with some lights on it. Wow, that email marketing session was filled with so much information, and you definitely wowed us on that. So I got some takeaways. I don't know anybody else's takeaways, but mine were those 4 things that, keep the topics relevant. Make sure that you're sending it in a timely manner and sending it from a trustworthy person, along with personalizing it, making it, use the first names, or maybe their name is Charles and they go by Chuck, let's keep it all personalized. And that NPS, I think I've talked about that like to 6 people yesterday. I thought that was amazing. It was something that I've never heard of before. So I thought, hey, this is great information. So thanks for wowing us yesterday with all that information. It was fantastic.
Oh, it's been fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Remember to chat in your questions, or if there's something you're like, wait a minute, I cannot chat this whole thing in. Let's open mics up. Let's have a discussion on what's working, what's not working. Any questions that you may have. Joel's all about AMA. Ask me anything. So want to make sure that we are going to get all of your questions answered today. So this is day 3. This is our last day. We part with Joel today, but we do have these all recorded. So you can go to our As No Education YouTube channel and you'll have access to these as well. So Joel, go ahead and kick it off today on our last day.
Awesome. I'm tired. I'm excited, but I'm tired. Like 3 days, like, woo. It's like I am built for a lot of things, but endurance isn't one of them. And so, but I appreciate we appreciate, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all. And as we've walked our way, I love the journey, the marketing journey from social media to email marketing, and now websites. And I think I'm sharing the right screen. Oh my goodness, it didn't. Can you see modernizing it? Click really quick on me there. Modernize your website for maximum impact with consumers. I almost gave us the kiss of death earlier, saying that everything's been going so smoothly. So quick that I almost picked the wrong screen. Like I said, we've walked through this journey, and you know what? They're not necessarily individualized, mutually exclusive. A lot of the social and email and websites all tie together. And I think perhaps they could, email communication that we talked about yesterday connects with relationships and communicating better, but it's all part of your digital presence. And in the world we live in today, I think, today we're talking about websites, and I think a lot of people will want to talk, what do I do for your website? When really, remember, this is just one piece of the puzzle. We're talking about your digital presence. That's the conversation you need to have today, is not necessarily what am I going to do for my website? It's what is the strategy for my for our digital presence? What are the things we're going to do? And I think this week's been a great journey through that. And so
it absolutely has.
Yeah. And so, and I'll reiterate what Laura said is ask me anything. We love the engagement. If I know the answer, we're going to answer it. If I don't, I'll tell you. And then maybe someone else on the call does. So we'll leverage the team. And so we're absolutely here for y'all. But we're going to take a look at modernizing your website for maximum impact with consumers. So just a little introduction. If you haven't been here the last 2 days, who I am, my name is Joel. And you can add the Zwicker part in there if you'd like. I am, and I keep saying I need to edit these slides. I am the insurance evangelist. I like to add the word "the" on there. It makes me feel good. But of course, if you were on the first meeting, on the first workshop, you'll notice that the one I always say, I want to give each and every one of you something you can take away today, that you can do today without having to go and buy or do anything. Just what can you do? And we'll go back to it. If you want engagement on social, you need to engage. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. Connect with AgencyRevolution on all those platforms as well. Shoot me a personal message. I'd love to chat with you. Love to learn more about your agency. And so myself, I was an independent insurance agent myself for 11 years. And I was just fortunate enough, somewhere early on in that journey, I was introduced to a company called AgencyRevolution, and it changed my life. And so when it came time for me to depart the agency, and 24 hours later, I got a phone call for the then owner of AgencyRevolution. It was really a no-brainer for me to jump on board because I believe and love it. I always say I'm one of those few people that gets to go to work every day and work for their dream company. So that's what it's all about. But the agenda for today is not why Joel would ever leave the independent insurance agency to go work for AgencyRevolution. It is why your website matters. It does matter. I know we hear so much, and we talked about this actually multiple times earlier in the week, but so many times in this industry, we hear, well, we don't get any leads. That's not, we don't do digital, like we're referral based, and all these things that you hear. Your website matters. Your website is part of that equation. And we'll talk about all that later on, but modern websites must have. Not every website needs to look the same. Not every website even has to have the same functionalities necessarily, but there are some must-haves. And so we'll look at those. And harnessing the power of analytics. Boy, there is power in knowing. Whether it's your website, your social, or anything else you're doing, there's power in knowing. So that's we're going to have a look at that, and we'll give some examples of websites that work and why they work. And then I'm going to dive into one example that I think has something a little bit unique that give you at least pause for thought and moving forward. So, with that said, why does your website matters? And it does matter. I'm sorry, it does. It doesn't matter how rural, how metro, how anything your agency is, your website does matter, okay? So 97% of consumers go online to find a local business. That's a huge percentage. So you need to go and find it and research it there. 88% of consumers are less likely to return to a site if it's a bad experience. So if you're just checking the box, and you kind of have this 10-year-old digital business card, it's doing you more harm than help in all likelihood. So keep that in mind. It's worth taking a little bit of time or engaging with someone professional, help you update and get that thing relevant. And 75% admit to judging a company's credibility based on website design. I am guilty of this. Both in my personal life and my professional life. I've passed judgment on agencies before based on their website, which were right and wrong, but also in my personal life. If you pull up someone and they're not at all relevant in the world, that's probably not something in the digital world that I want to be part of or necessarily do business with. And I think obviously that holds true across the industry. Interesting. This is what you got. It is first impressions last a lifetime, and you don't have much of one. So you have 0.05 seconds for users to form an opinion about your website that determines whether or not they'll stay or leave. So that's a very short amount of time for you to make an impression. So let's make it count, and we'll dive into how you can make it do that. So, all these first impressions, 94% are design related, not functionality. It's obviously that first impression is quick. So they make that decision. 38% of people will stop engaging with a website if the content layout is unattractive. So it's just confusing, doesn't make sense. I think for a lot of agencies, you got to remember, it doesn't matter if your website works for you. You're not the one using your website. It's your prospects, it's your clients. It's got to make sense for them. So keep that in mind. 64% of site visitors want to see a company's contact information on its homepage. This has become a common thing, whether you should or you shouldn't, maybe have multiple locations. Listen, if you're in a business of trust, you're in a business of relationship, even if you have multiple locations, you have a head office, you have a main location, that contact information should be on that main page. And that obviously has a huge impact on people's decisions on whether they're going to stay or go or even do business with you. 57% of visitors won't recommend a business if their website is not optimized for mobile devices. The reality is in excess, the vast majority of people are probably going to pull your website up on their phone. So it needs to be mobile responsive. So I'm going to date myself here a little bit. I remember when we first created our very first website with AgencyRevolution back, wow, I don't remember how long ago, 12, 15 years ago. And I remember that I could go in and we were changing the .mobi version. Like that was the first iteration. Well, things have changed and now websites are just, or should be built on responsive design platforms. So whether people are looking on your website on a traditional desktop or a smartphone or a tablet or anything in between, it's going to look and feel the way you want it to. And if it's not doing that, then once again, it's probably hurting you more than it's helping you. Let me just pause there, and as we go, and just not to confuse anybody, what I'm talking about here, and I made reference to this. A lot of agencies are their growth, their new client base is driven very much by referrals. And so as we get into digital presence and websites, I think a lot of times it does take a back burner for some agencies. And I can understand the perceived reason for that, because, hey, why does my website need to be at that level when my client Joel is just going and he's out with his friend Laura and he says, hey, you should try this agency, and they're coming directly to me. That's not at all what happens. Okay. In most cases, when someone refers somebody, they're not going to blindly go. They do research. And so keeping that in mind, when you do all these things that we're going to look at today, and improving your website and improving that digital presence, that's going to benefit things like referrals. And don't underestimate the value a properly functioning looking website has with the other relationships you have with carriers, and other industry associations that you may have. So they do see your website and they will pass judgment, or at least judge what you're doing based on that. So right or wrong, those things matter. So if you're basing your word on referral, I can assure you that a lot of people, if you're doing well on referrals now, you'll do even better by having a properly functioning website and digital presence.
And that's so true, Joel, because if you think about it, if anybody refers anything to you, even if it's a restaurant, what do? You go onto their website, you look at it to see what it's all about,
Absolutely.
And if their website, I don't know about anybody else, but if their website is not inviting or engaging to me, I'm like, oh, what kind of restaurant is this going to be? And that's the same that they're looking at when they're doing business with somebody as well.
Well, and here's the other thing. It's like, if the website's not good on a restaurant, you might do a drive-by. Just drive by and have a look at this place. I can assure you very few people are going to drive by your insurance agency to see, hey, is this somewhere where I want to do business?
Yeah,
they're going to take your digital presence as face value, right? And so
that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, how can we modernize a website for the maximum impact? So there's a few things we can do. So these are the essentials. Modern, organized design. So like, just once again, remember that your website doesn't always have something you need to be proud of as an agency or an agent. It should be reflective of who you are and what you're about. But it doesn't have to be, remember, it's not built for you, it's built for your clients and your prospects. So keeping it modern, keeping it organized, making sure it clearly articulates your value prop, and you should know what you're about. What is your story? Okay, tell your story. What is it that you're about? We looked earlier in the week at when we were talking social media, a company profile that talked and just refreshing everybody's mind, talked about family, how they were a family oriented, community based, family. The words family just exude from this description. Well, that's what their agency is all about, and that's what their website should reflect. And I'm going to give a couple examples of those later. So those value props, it's sometimes a play on words, but the imagery as well. It should have relevant insurance related content. Okay, remember, insurance related content, there's two types of content, and we're going to look at them, and I'll define it multiple times so it's not confusing. I'm going to try my best not to confuse everybody, but there's two types of content. There's content for engagement. So things like videos, articles, interactive calculators that you want people to take time, and there's a sticky factor to them. Once they're on your website, they're gonna look at it, read it, maybe share it on social, or they're gonna see it on social and they're gonna watch it. So that's one type of content. The other type of content are words on the page. So that type of content is more to attract people to your website through search. So search engine optimization, so SEO, these types of things. So long long blogs and these types of things can really drive traffic to your website. So that's one type of content, but you should have both. You need that deep content, the words on the page, on the auto insurance page, or the cyber liability page, or whatever niches you may have. You need those words on the page. You need great content on your blog. Your blog and I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but your blog should always be original content. Never buy a blog anyway. But it should be original content, but that's to drive traffic in. But then you need that other content piece, the thing that keeps people there, the engaging pieces, videos, as I said, interactive calculators, these types of things can be really fun and will keep people there and keep them coming back. And then of course, lead capture tools, and there's all kinds of them. Some of them are form fills, quote requests, things like page gating can be hugely powerful. And yes, we all hate page gating. Okay, don't you hate it? Don't you hate it when you go to a website and it's like, oh, I'd like to watch that video, or I'm going to read that article, and then you got to give them your email. You got to give them your name and your email. But you know what? It works. That's why they do it. It works. So I think there's other ones like that, but page gating is a powerful one. Giving people multiple options to connect with you and capture that information is important as well.
Question for you, Joe.
Sure.
Should you be adding the same content you're putting on social media onto your website?
Absolutely, and we'll actually dig into that as we go on. But there's certainly no reason why you can't, if you have that capability to house some of that great content in both places. Oftentimes, maybe for using an example, if you've originally created a blog or a video blog, you may be able to chop that up into multiple social posts. But absolutely, you should do that.
Thank you.
So other must-haves: simple, mobile, responsive. We talked a little bit about that, and secure. This middle one seems like I shouldn't have to say it, but you would be amazed. You would be absolutely amazed. Actually, I'm going to jump out of here at the rest of this presentation. So I'm going to do this too. So here's how you know if your website is responsive. Okay, if you think it is but you're not sure, simply resize it. Okay, so take your screen. And I'm going to take, I have this agency website. I'll steal a little bit of the thunder here. And what you do is we just take it down, and I've made it really small, but now we just resize it. And you can see it's converting it as I move it. You see how it's changing, and it's changing and it's changing. I'm doing it really quick, but it's changing, and now it's back up to. That's how you know if your website's mobile responsive, okay? So you can check your own website, you can check other websites. That's how you know if it's responsive, if it converts itself. The other must-have here that we mentioned is secure, and you can always tell that if you're using Google. You can see the lock up here, or the address will have an HTTPS, and that, I think, you wouldn't think that need to be said, but it's amazing how many websites aren't. Or you check your own website, your main page may be secured, but your internal pages are not. And that is not something that should happen. We see quite often in the insurance industry where their main page is, but if we start clicking into these other pages, they're not secure anymore. So and so that's it. So I'll go back to the slideshow. Sorry for the deviation there, folks, off to a website, but I think showing it is great. So. So you want to make sure those things, check them out, check your competitors, those key things, and of course compliance. ADA compliant, and really this shouldn't be, it is state specific. I think a lot of agencies find themselves getting a nice letter in the mail lately. We've seen this on a regular basis, whether it's right or wrong, about complaints. So just if you have fear for that, there's great tools out there. I know we have one here at AgencyRevolution called Accessibility Lock, where we can add it to your website. Actually, it was on that website I previewed. But keeping those things in mind, and absolutely you want to do those things and check them out. So some homepage tips. It's okay to have a long homepage. That's cool, right? There is what we call above the fold, which you should keep in mind. So above the fold is traditionally, like if this slide was our website, what you see is above the fold. So what goes on the screen above. So keeping that in mind, but it's okay to have a long page. It's okay to put lots of things, answer questions, and direct visitors to other areas of your site. Request a quote here, research personal lines, social. Oh, while I'm here, this is and sorry, some of this is great information, and some of this is like I click on probably more insurance agency websites than anybody else on the planet, because it's what I do. Please check that your social tags are A, there, or B, go anywhere. Far too many agencies, you'll click their social tags and it A, goes nowheres, or they don't even have it set up. So if you've set up a website and you put a link to Twitter on there and you don't have Twitter, that's okay. Just remove the link from your website. So just little things that can make such a huge difference. And so, lead forms, quote forms, gathering information, navigation for existing clients. So we are in a situation in this industry that our website, yes, is to attract new prospects, but very often now you may be using a client portal or something like that, or a place for your existing clients to contact you, provide you information, access their documents. Keep that in mind. Make sure it's easy to navigate for both of those people. And once again, it goes without saying, and the website I just shared is a great example of this. And I'm going to, and later on, I'll explain some of the more detailed behind the scenes things of that website that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but identify your unique value proposition and brand. Keep it on point. And like I said, that when we talk, I think when a lot of people hear brand, you think logo. A brand is more than a logo. You have a story. It really is what is your overall brand, not just simply the imagery, if you will, or I should say the imagery is more than just your logo. And so provide social proof, testimonials. I know here at AgencyRevolution, if you're using our communication platform, which we obviously have a partnership with Esnoa that we looked at yesterday, we have a great widget there that actually takes your Google reviews and allows you to put them on your website. So if you don't have some testimonials you can put on there, you can flow those Google reviews on there as well. Social proof, nothing better. Don't forget your awards and accolades, even if they seem small. You know what? Put them on there. Put them on there. Let people know that, whether it's from a local situation, local chamber, or something like that, or something industry wide, or and that doesn't necessarily have to be the agency as a whole. We all probably have producers, CSRs, whoever have you, that have been recognized by a carrier or something. Highlight those things, put them out there. Consider adding an original intro video. So welcoming people, throw that on your website. Laura, you just asked about videos that can be everywhere, right? But I've seen some unique ones, everything from an agency principal just kind of welcoming people to the website and to the agency and telling a little bit of the story, to actually an actual walkthrough, kind of here's our location. If you have multiple locations or whatever, just walk them through what it looks like. So if they do come, give them an idea what your actual bricks and mortar might or may not look like. So I thought that was kind of cool. And of course, you should have a current events or just discuss events, highlight the fact that you're involved, or you're repping a group or something like that. That's also important too. I harped on the social media earlier. It's critical. Make sure they're there. Please make sure they're there. But if you don't, also make sure the links actually work. That's the other thing. Far too many agency websites I see that don't have social links at all, which I think is maybe ridiculous. You should be on social, drive people there. How else are people going to be there? Actually had a conversation with an agency. It was within the last month anyway, and they were super confused why they couldn't seem to get any traction on their social page. And that's a whole nother conversation which we embarked on a little bit on Tuesday. But I asked a simple question. Well, have you asked anybody? And then, what do you mean? Like, is it in your email signature? Is it on your website? No. I'm like, well, if you're not getting anybody there, how are they going to get there? So make sure your social forms, social media is there. And of course, those form fills mentioned once again. Content matters. Content is king. So content allows you to connect with your clients. I kind of gave the definition. I'll reiterate it. There's content, which are words on the page to drive people there. And then there's for search purposes, which you can see here, but then there's content that engages people and keeps them there. So you need to consider both and finding sources for both. So content allows you to connect with these people, whether it's education, and it will lead to increased conversions. But individual pieces, once again, those blogs, like don't go out and buy a blog unless someone is writing it specifically for your agency. A blog is a place for you to share your expertise, and really pay dividends. And you do not need to be a creative writer. You know, and if you're me, I'm a terrible writer. I don't do it well. So grab your phone and do a video. Sit at your desk and prop your phone up there and just talk about the things that you talk about every single day, right? I'm gonna, this may come as no surprise, but I do little rehearsal for these workshops or webinars. Quite frankly, why? Because it's what I talk about every day. It's what I know, and you're the same. You're the same. You're an expert in your field. You know this industry, or your staff. Maybe someone has a niche expertise or whatever have you. Get them to share. Those are valuable pieces of content, and that are just right at your fingertips, that can be hugely powerful for your digital presence and website. So some marketing tips: you can certainly outsource content creation, particularly the engaging ones. Those pieces that are engaging, typically they require a lot of graphic integrity, some production that just most agencies just don't have the time or resources to do, and certainly not to do at scale. So outsourcing some of that, but certainly if you need to outsource someone to create an original blog or whatever have you for you, can do that. Tap into different mediums. I've harped on video here, but there's videos, there's articles, there's all kinds of things that you can do that can really provide success. And commit to SEO. And newsflash, okay, there is no silver bullet to SEO. If there was, write a book, but there's not. And it is certainly not. There's no silver bullet, and it's not a one and done thing. SEO is something that's a long game, and some really, really basic techniques can serve you so much benefit long into the future. I think one of the best, and once again, this comes from what I'm sharing with you. You'll hear me reference the original content on blogs. We did a podcast some time ago. We do lots of podcasts, but this one was shared. And this agent, essentially, their strategy for SEO was blogging. And basically what they were having everybody do was, everybody in the office kept a list and the most commonly asked questions. And then when it came time to blog, simply collect the pieces of paper and pick a question, and that's what they would blog about. And it was really simple. Sometimes the most simplest things that you don't think anybody cares about or would search about, but they do. People do search all those things. And if you're the one person providing expertise on that, it'll pay dividends. And this agency was seeing leads on a weekly basis from blogs they had written years prior. So they can really pay dividends. And committing to SEO, while it is just, I guess, yes, it is just one more thing you need to do. But it really, if you want to commit to a digital presence, doing something like that can pay huge dividends for you. So you heard yesterday talking about keeping things relevant. The same thing goes to content, keeping it relevant. But great content doesn't necessarily have a shelf life if it's relevant. So you can keep things up to date that are relevant to what it is, your business. It doesn't all have to be so specifically insurance, but it can absolutely be relevant to your clientele and some of the conversations you may be having. Like, you can see, can I refinance my mortgage? I'm guessing there's probably not a lot of people on here that are offering mortgages within their insurance agency, but that's relevant content. Why? Because those people obviously are talking about mortgages. So they're going to need home insurance. They may need some life insurance and all those other things. And with that comes all those other things. So still very relevant to the people you want to have a conversation with. So then once we get past content, then there's forms. So be careful with forms, okay? Just be careful with forms, because there is a strategy here. I know you want a lot of information, and I know you don't want everybody that happens to swoop into your website just to give you some information, and so then it's more of a nuisance. But there is a strategy. The more questions you ask, the less likely someone's going to go to completion and click submit. That's why putting a rater on your website, I believe, and we'll get to that, is important. But I think before someone gets to a rater, they should provide you some basic information. So if nothing else, you can gather some basic lead info: first name, last name, contact information, email, phone number, and then, even a quote type or something would be nice. But even without that, if you get that basic information, even if they don't complete the rater, or they never call in or walk into your office, you have that information, and you can get them on a lead warming conveyor belt or funnel. That's important. But it never has to shy away from asking people to schedule an appointment or ask a simple question. Like I said, capture that basic information. There's great calendar apps that make it really easy for people to schedule, and you can block and decide what times people do. There's all kinds of great options out there for you to use. And then, you heard me mention earlier the idea of content and forms and backups, pop-ups and these types of things. But page gating is another pop-up. You heard me mention that basic information for they gather. So maybe if you shared or you've created a really cool video and you just, it's your video blog, and you just want to make sure if it's super good, and you want, before someone can access it, they want a basic bit of information. That's a great place to do that. But other places that you can do that are things like ebooks, insurance quids, RSVPing to events. Let them do that through your website. Quotes and evaluations. These are all places that you can gather information. The more information you can gather people, the more likely you can get them on a conveyor belt. And once again, there is the science of it all here. I referenced this, I believe, yesterday and maybe Tuesday as well. But in the world, when someone takes one step towards you, and that one step could be as simple as giving you some information, reading an ebook or whatever have you. When they make that one step, the likelihood of them doing business with you just increases astronomically. Once again, I'm at a lot. I don't remember the exact number, but I know it's astronomical. I want to say it's in around the 80% range. When someone does that, they move forward. They're more likely to move forward. So keeping those things in mind, these are all things that just get the ball rolling to them doing business with you. So some basics: custom content for your website. So these are things that you're creating. If you go to a website provider like an AgencyRevolution or anybody else, they're going to provide you with some content, but in that SEO long game, constantly creating some custom, unique content on a regular basis. It sounds daunting, but it's not that hard, and it can pay hugely dividends. Keeping that SEO in mind, think about your clients. Once again, the idea of just keeping a list of the most commonly asked questions that a CSR gets, that a producer gets, maybe someone's working with claims or whatever have you. These are questions that people are getting all the time, and that can be great content for your website. A monthly blog is often a great place to do that. See, a monthly blog doesn't even seem that daunting. Once a month to write a blog about something that you're passionate about and you do every day, that's not that hard. You can do it. I believe in you.
I believe in you. That's
I
right.
believe in you.
Question for you. How
Sure.
often should you update your website?
Well, I mean, updating your website. So I think there's two parts to that question. Aesthetically, I think a two-year window. So when we're talking about the overall, when you sit back and modernizing it, if you will. So here at Agency Revolution, we recommend a 2-year refresh. And in fact, we incorporate that as part of our solution. So it's that seems to be the magic time there to do that 2-year refresh. But as far as updating content wise, as often as you can, that will be my answer. You can see a monthly blog. That's a content update. So if once a month you're adding some original custom content via a blog, hugely powerful and something you should absolutely consider. With that said, there's other things that you need to keep in mind. And once again, some of these are just from my experience. So 7 years now, I've been here at Agency Revolution. And once again, I don't think anybody looks at more insurance agency websites than myself, or certainly our team, as we go on. Just things like, you go to an agency website and they have their team page, which you absolutely should highlight your team page, or at minimum, some of the managers or whatever have you, frontline staff, whatever have you. But you'll go and they're like, oh, that person hasn't worked here in a year. Or worse yet, that person is deceased or something like that. Like, I mean, that's a morbid thing to say, but it's like, holy crow, this person that's on your website, like, update that stuff. Like, so make sure those things are up to date, like team pages, locations, address, phone numbers. Those things need to be done more often. Modernizing, keeping it relevant. You're in a 2-year window, but as far as content wise, as often as you can, we would, but if you can do that on a monthly basis, adding some sort of new relevant content via blog or something is going to be hugely powerful. And it's just a habit. It's just block it in your calendar and make it happen, and it'll pay you huge dividends in your agency. So let's take a look at some examples of some great websites and why. So here's an example of an agency website, and it encapsulates some great things. Lead capture button, get a quote, really quick and easy. I will highlight the fact that it's also in the top right corner. when anybody looks at a website, their eyes always end in the top right corner. So your number one priority, whatever you want people to do most, that should probably be in the top right corner. So you can see these folks have get a quote because that's what they want. They have a great value proposition. We protect your assets and make you more profitable. So making whether it's your business, your family, strong branding image, obviously. So this website works for those things. Um, built-in rater, keeping your rater, making it easy to use. You know what? For a long time, I was so against raters. I really was. I was like, don't put a rater on your website. When I was an agent, we put a rater on our website, and what I found at that time, and this is 10 years ago, is that I was always competing against myself. So I got in this price battle all the time, and we never want to sell on price. Really, we provide so much value, more value in this industry. If someone wants a price, they can go get it. And so I was like, goodness me, this person went on the rater. Now we're expecting people to be underwriters. And they got a quote of $700 for their auto insurance. And they come into me, and I actually put the information in, and turns out it's $725, which is still a phenomenal deal. But now they're mad at me because it's $25 more than the computer said. So I was always kind of against that. But number one, we've improved raters since then. But number two, consumer behavior is so much changed. There is an expectation to be able to get something from your website. And so particularly in personal lines and small commercial, there's rating options. I would encourage you to put them there. And once again, it just provides, it does provide that ability for, if nothing else, for you to gather some information and nurture somebody and reach out to. But certainly the consumer behavior suggests that should be there. Here's another great one. Imagery. I think imagery is a big part here. We're drawing out from multiple lead capture forms in here, but the imagery is impactful. I think it's aesthetically pleasing. It's obviously representing the city that this agency is doing business. So it's very nice like that. But you can see we're grabbing multiple opportunities to quote now, and obviously a client login on that one as well. But you'll notice this agency also has only LinkedIn and Facebook. Those are the social platforms they're on. Once again, we did this great workshop on social media and why they're all important. But you know what? You don't have to be on every one of them. You may go to a conference, or you may hear things where like, you should be everywhere. So, well, yeah, in an ideal world you would, but we understand that you're busy. So you need to understand who your clients are. Excuse me, who are your clients, who are your ideal clients, wherever they are, that's where you need to be. And so for this particular agency, it's simply LinkedIn and Facebook. Another great one, very organized. You can see on this particular agency, after I just gave you the big thing about online rating and quoting, this agency is obviously does things very differently. You'll actually see nowhere on here where it says get a quote. Excuse me. It's access the client portal. This website is specifically built to provide a professional image. They're commercial lines focused, and they do some personal lines just purely as for the commercial lines clients. But this is meant to be a place to show a strong professional image and give people the ability to access the client portal. That's why the top right corner is in there, and obviously people can learn more about their agency. So just different approach, but the same principles play. This great brand story. So I will take you back to this website as we look at it, and I may come back to this website. So we'll go here, and this is a fun website. So let me just minimize the chat that they're using here. And so this website is fun. This is what this agency wanted. That when this agency they came to us, they're obviously a client of ours, but when they had an idea, when they had a thought of what they wanted their website to be, they said, well, they want that people to have smile on their face. They wanted people to have a smile on their face when they came to our website. So when people come to this agency, we want them to smile. And so this is where we're at. It is a brand. Like the logo is often what we think about brand, as I mentioned previously, but the brand here is to have fun and smile. So whether you're here on the main page or we go over here to those other internal pages, it's we're having fun. People are smiling. They're turning insurance into fun. So that is absolutely critical. And so keeping that in mind, that keeping a smile, or whatever your story is, whatever your brand is. It doesn't have to be just your logo. It doesn't have to be imagery. It's almost like a lifestyle. We want it to be fun. We want it to put smiles on people's face. So that's absolutely what they do with their agency website. So I'll open this back up. Now, here's where we get the complicated part, or what seems complicated, but using analytics, our power, like this is where the power is, and your website has it and can get it easily. You can really get these numbers quite easily. But things that you should be looking for as growth with respect to your website, and so we're looking for, and we see YOY, if you know, it's year over year. So we should see just general traffic. Is our traffic improving? Has it generated more calls? So yes, a website can drive more calls. You heard us talk about it earlier, that an engaging website can increase referrals and these types of things. So, the fact that you increase your digital presence, make it better, can generate more calls. Are you getting more leads? Are more people completing or converting? When I say conversion, or I say converting, as when we're talking about digital or websites, we're talking about someone that clicks submit. Submit, request a quote, submit to get my quote. That's a conversion. And so more leads is more conversions. New customers, obviously, those people that are leads, are we converting them? Inevitably, digital website, your closing ratio is going to be a little bit less, but that's okay, because they're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting themselves. So just watching for new customers, and just increased number of deals or opportunities, more of a commercial lines point there. Why analytics? I mean, you should be, I don't know that in this industry I need to tell you, but why analytics, but to measure your business goals, to see evaluate your performance. Where can you make improvements? Always wanting to improve. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is your agency's digital presence. It's going to take time, and you can constantly improving. It's a process, and you can really find ways to succeed if you just pay a little bit of attention to some key factors. Google Analytics is the place where you can get all this information. You can get it. You can have it on your website, and it'll provide you more information, more analytics than you could ever want. But it's really simple, and I shouldn't say that. At the end, it is very simple. We're just tracking some basics. They're going to give you timelines, whether it's day to day, month to month, year over year. All those things can be easily at your fingertips. We're talking about users. So users are unique users. So how many times does this person come back? So we have, for example, a visit or a session is how many people come on, and then users, how many of them are unique. And then another big play is session duration. How long do people stay on your website? This gets back to the content piece. Remember the two types of content, the content to get people there and the content to keep people there. This is the get people there, keep them there. That plays here. You want to know how long people are spending on your website. The number of page views. Are they staying on your main page? Are they diving in? Are they drilling into those other parts of your website? If they're not, there's things you can do. You can drive them there better. You can create better content there. Where they're coming from. Are they coming from social? Are they coming from paid? Are they coming from organic Google search? Are they coming from local search? These are things you should be paying attention to. And you heard me talk about conversions earlier. How many people actually submit a form or click whatever have you, get a quote. And I just defined all those in the moment. And so we'll go by these. But here's an example. So year over year. And so you can see, very interesting. This is a sample from Google Analytics. So you can see over time that there's obviously peaks and valleys, and you can just see there's obviously an improvement from one year to the next here. But then we can get really specific, like is there something that happened here that we got this huge peak? Can we repeat it? Do we do it again? Or is it not necessarily maybe we were getting the wrong people there at that time. So keeping those peaks in mind, or the valleys, understanding what they are. But you can see here, obviously the next year we've done a much better job with a little bit more consistent peaks, but inevitably that's what it is over time. So some just questions you should be asking when it comes to matrix or whatever have you, which key matrix went up or down, and which ones remain the same. Like, just knowing that it's more than just traffic. If certain elements have gone up and down, if it's, the time that people stayed is more. Can you attribute these two things? Were you running a campaign? Were you having an event? Were you sponsoring something? Were you involved with something that caused that spike? Understanding that, if it's something that you can repeat or do again, you may want to do that. Consider all your marketing efforts. Once again, just because you did something that's not necessarily digital doesn't mean you won't necessarily get a corresponding spike on your website, because general interest in you and what you're doing, people were searching and these types of things. I can assure you, if you do, let's just use an example of a homegrown referral push, where everybody that calls in or comes into your office, you're going to mention your referral program and suggest to them and ask them. I can assure you that will correspond with spikes in website traffic as well. And so keep those things in mind. Is there anything that surprised you? Don't assume why. Is there anything that surprised you? Is there certain pieces of content that are more popular than others? Because those are obviously content pieces that you want to highlight, maybe use in other places or use again. So now I want to talk about website plus social. And so Laura, you asked a little question about this earlier. And so just highlighting, and I'm going to go back to this website that was on. And so this is one thing we believe here at Agency Revolution. And it's because it's a major, we see so many agencies failing on this because content is hard to come up with, right? It's hard to create, it's a lot. And so, and the next biggest thing we see, so many agencies will use third-party content so much of the time. And kind of reverting back to your question, Laura, if you're using third-party content, i.e. from a carrier or something like that, which it's okay to use time to time, but it shouldn't be your foundational content. The problem with that is you can't share it on your website. So what we recommend and what we help agencies do is providing great content that you can also share on your website. And wouldn't you know it, my absolutely favorite piece of content, I did not click here, this is not scripted or planned or anything, but this is truthfully my favorite piece of content, only because I like peanut butter and jelly, forgive me. But you'll notice here, we're on this agency's Facebook page, and if I click this particular piece of content, it takes me right back to the agency website, where now I can watch my favorite piece of content with bacon and eggs and my peanut butter and jelly and steak and potatoes. That's just the kind of guy I am. But we can now watch this video here on the website. So if you're sharing third-party content, that content is driving you to the third-party website. Might be a carrier, might be an article somewhere else. And if that's what you're doing the majority of the time, it's counterintuitive to your digital presence. So you're driving traffic away more than you're driving in. So keep that in mind. Yes, you want your content to be housed on your website. It can provide a great resource library here of things like videos. Using this as an example, all these great videos are housed on the website, but then they're very easy or can automatically be shared out to Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, wherever you want. Key is we're driving people back here where now I can watch and consume this particular piece of content, and that's going to boost the reason people stay and come back to your website. So keep that in mind, that these pieces of content are the content that are going to keep people engaged, keep them coming back, keep them staying on your website, but more importantly, will make their way to your website when you're sharing that great content on socials. So that's something that we do and we recommend here at Agency Revolution for those obvious reasons. Great content to drive traffic in, those blogging, those things that can be original or should be original, or certainly a strategy around them, but getting great content, those engaging pieces, and get them out to your social feeds, or as I like to call your universe, and getting people back as often as possible. So questions. That's what I got, Laura. I see good points. I see Holly and Laura having a conversation over here in the chat. I don't think I missed any questions, but if I did, please ask them, or if anybody has any comments, questions, please fire away.
I do. I have a question for you.
Sure.
In regards to a rater on your website, do you think that you should just have the rater where, hey, you're wanting a quote, it just gives your name, just a name, a phone number, and email? Or should you have on it like you showed it, where they're going to put in all the data, the consumer will put that in, and then you can contact them back with a quote, or have it give them a quote?
Yeah. So traditionally, when a rater specifically is put on a website, it will provide a quote. What I'm suggesting is if you can gather some basic information first, because traditionally raters are third party, right? So they're not, so they're third party, so they're a widget, they're housed on the website. And so, and depending on the rater, it's either a widget is something that's just housed visually within your website, or it may direct you off to the rater that kind of somewhat still looks like your agency website, but you're putting the information in there. Before you do all that, the problem is when someone goes into a rater, it asks a lot of questions. What type of quote, your name, your address, the vehicles, or your address, and all these things got to go in. And once you get past a certain amount of questions, a lot of people will just stop. They won't complete it for any number of reasons. So if you think about that, if initially we can just give them a touch of, if they'll give us just, you want a quote, great, start here, first name, last name, submit, first name, last name, email, submit. Then we've gathered the basic. Now we can nurture those people. We know they're interested in insurance. Now we can nurture them today, tomorrow, or on into the future. But then we can allow them into the rater to if they want to complete and request a quote, and they go the whole way through and get a number. Of course, then the agency is going to get that all that information, which is hugely powerful. But once again, a lot of people aren't going to complete that. And if we rely solely on that, a lot of people are just answer 3 or 4 questions and then close out the screen, and you never get to capture that information. So if you can capture a little bit and then direct her into more information, that's the magic.
That's the magic, all right. Holly and I were doing going back and forth. Holly does Holly's how-to, and she puts it on social media.
Nice.
And it's absolutely amazing. And so I was asking her if she had it on a website, so when people click, just like you showed, it would bring them right into the website to view that. So she said she was going to look into that. So that's kind of where I was going with that with her.
And once again, if you're doing a Holly's how-to, and I'm going to make a couple assumptions. Holly's doing how-tos. I'm guessing it's relevant to, or somewhat relevant to, the insurance industry.
Absolutely.
Having that as a resource on your webpage. So great social content, Holly. Huge, awesome. Couldn't think of a better thing to do. So a few things you could do with that. Number one, you should have those transcribed. Okay. So Holly, I'm way ahead of you on another screen. I've already got it up. Way ahead of you. So, but yes, I will follow you. So, and you may be doing these things now, and if you are, great. So everybody else can share on this, but Holly's doing these great videos. Have them transcribed. There's a blog that'll pay you huge dividends on SEO if you get that to your website. Right. So have that transcribed. So then you can have the video and the transcription on your website. It'll pay you dividends in SEO. Right. So you'll get the benefits of both worlds, but I'm going to assure you, your staff may be able to save time as well. And then you have the opportunity to now be proactive. You can be proactive, not just with your social followers. If you have, you should be able to email out little selfless plug here for AgencyRevolution. You can incorporate that video nicely into an email. Where, hey, this is Holly's how-to. You're building your brand, you're building your expertise, you're building your relationship, all those positive things, but you're staying proactive, that more people may, oh, I didn't know that this is what I should do in a claim, or, oh, I didn't know what to do, or whatever the Holly's how-tos are. So there's so many different places you can do that. And maybe you are Holly. If you are, tip of the cap to you. But if I'm Holly, and I'm going to make a couple recommendations: transcribe, video blog with transcription, great SEO, and then email that stuff out to your clients.
And how do you get that transcribed? Is that like another software program that you have to use?
I want to say yes. Adrian's on here. He would be the one that would do that. So it's not necessarily, but yeah, transcribing, having it transcribed is something that can be done. But would highly recommend it. And yes, Holly loves my video blog idea. There you go. You're one great idea. So, but yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for all of those tips. I know Holly her mind's going crazy. Now she's going to be doing all kinds of other stuff, but I do love that idea of video and then having it as a blog. That's amazing.
Powerful. Once again, just content pieces can be used in so many different places. If you're taking the time to make those videos, as Holly is, they're hugely powerful, very underused in this industry. Don't stop at social. Use it on your website, use it in email marketing, all those things, maximize it.
Do you have any websites that are bad?
I I do. I don't have them bookmarked. I've actually seen some terrible ones, but I wouldn't necessarily share them. But yeah, I wouldn't do that to an agency.
Right, right. I get
I've seen some terrible ones, but I wouldn't do that to an agency. And you know what? Sometimes those conversations are so tough. Like,
yeah.
I'm usually pretty direct with someone. I'm like, Laura, usually I say, do you want to talk about, you need to talk about your website. Like, it's terrible. Like, let me just, if you're listening to this call and you're on here and you look at the bottom of your website and the copyright or what have you of your website is not the current year, you need to do something. Right.
Okay.
And I have seen web pages recently that have shown like copy, like as of like early 2000s.
Oh,
Like you will
wow.
see that. You will see that on agency websites. You'll see that actually I've one on another screen here. The copyright is in 2019. It's like, seriously? Like, you can't even update to 2022? Like,
right.
come on, so yeah, scroll to the bottom of your website. If it doesn't say 2022, just go to agencyrevolution.com and contact us. Let's just make it easy.
Yeah, for sure. So now, do you do that as part of Agency Revolution? Do you go in, look at somebody's website and then just say, no, you should change this, change that?
Yeah, so great question. So on a digital side, we provide a multiple different solutions. So we can, if you're working with us, we're going to look at your existing website. Actually, if you're going to come and do business with us, we can do a complete audit of your existing website and digital presence and actually migrate, tell you what content you have on your existing website that's worth keeping and having around, and help you, and we'll migrate it over to your new website. So that's a positive thing. So we can let you know those things, and then we can give you best practice, or if there's things that you really want to do, absolutely. But then with respect to solutions, we find agencies essentially fall into two buckets. Okay. One is, I want a beautiful website. I want great content. And then I'm pretty good with that. Like, I'll just leverage those tools as I need to. Maybe I'll turn on an automation to get content out to my social media, which we can do. But really, I just want the tools and then be left to my own devices. On the flip side, a lot of agencies says, yeah, I know I need to do this. I believe there's opportunity in digital, but I do not have the time, nor the resources, nor the expertise to do it. So we can actually extend a digital marketing team to your agency. So we can provide you, essentially, to sum that up, we can provide you with the tools that you need to be effective in a digital world, or we can provide you the tools and a team to make it happen.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that certainly is. I was wowed again on this one. I've been wowed on each one, and you're like, hey, email marketing, that's my jam. Hey, I think all three of them are.
Some things, we all have your path. Like, I love helping independent insurance agencies. I love here at Agency Revolution. I love what we do with it. And a little bit of a selfish plug, but I'm very involved with our whole team. And as you always bring on new people, and it is my wholehearted belief, and as Noah probably feels this way too, not about us, but themselves, but very rarely in life do you get to work with companies that truly positively impact the lives of the clients they work with every day. And I'm it. Like, I lived it. I was John Q, CSR, barely get through writing an insurance policy day to day. But because of I met Agency Revolution, and they helped me and they educated me in our agency. I go from that to, being a director of communications and marketing for a large agency, and really changing my life and my family's life in such a positive way. And I've seen that time and time again here at Agency Revolution, whether it's that agency owner that was just kind of muddling along, trying to get to a number where they could retire, to them saying, not only did we retire, we sold our agency 5 years early for triple what we ever imagined, just making a few helpful touches. So that, great technology. Yeah, that's cool. Great. That's what we do. But really, it's impacting the lives of clients, and really your clients too, is really what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I know we're right at the top of the hour. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to let us know. Once you get off this, if you run into any questions, please just email me or contact Joel through his social media platforms. So Joel, what would be the best place to contact you at?
If you want to contact me, you can connect me on LinkedIn. Just search Joel Zwicker, pops up. It's linkedin.com/Joel Zwicker. Or feel free, Joel at AgencyRevolution.com if you want to email me directly. So JOEL at AgencyRevolution.com. And of course, if you just go to AgencyRevolution.com, there's a myriad of contact options there. I will state, don't be scared to click request a demo. It'll give you the opportunity to book in everybody's calendar. So, and it doesn't have to be a demo. If you just want to have a conversation, a consultation, whatever have you, don't hesitate to use that. It says request or get a demo, but it doesn't have, don't be fooled by that. It can be
Right.
just a conversation if need be.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for bringing all of this knowledge that you have to our agents. We greatly appreciate it. It's been a great journey going through the marketing. What did I say earlier? The marketing journey.
The marketing journey.
The
Absolutely.
marketing journey, right, for sure. So we thank you very much. And we'll hang on here a little if anybody has any questions. Holly, you got any questions? I can unmute you if you would like to review anything. That would be great. Just let us know, guys. Other than that, have a great day. We have these recorded, and let us know at the end. You will receive an evaluation. Please let us know what you thought of the marketing workshop. Let us know if you want to see other workshops. We're open to hear any of your other ideas.